Welcome back to our channel World of Royals, where we share updates and untold stories about Catherine, Princess of Wales, and her royal family. Today, we bring you some news.
We are no longer dealing with tabloid whispers or online gossip. This is no longer rumor territory. According to breaking reports, a man who once saved Prince Harry and Meghan Markle at their lowest point has now delivered a final warning, and it may change everything. That man is Tyler Perry, the billionaire filmmaker, studio owner, and one-time lifeline to the Sussexes has reportedly issued a direct ultimatum. The message is simple and devastating. Repay the money within 30 days, or this goes to court. This is not a bluff. This is not posturing. And this is not a misunderstanding. When a self-made billionaire who controls his own empire threatens legal action, it means every private conversation has already failed. It means patience is gone. And it means the next step is exposure. Because court doesn't just mean repayment. Court means discovery. Discovery means bank records, loan transfers, emails, texts, agreements that were never meant to be seen. And that is why, according to multiple sources, Harry and Meghan are reportedly in panic mode. Welcome back to World of Royals. Tonight, we are investigating what insiders are calling the Montecito meltdown. We're going to break down the alleged hidden loan that helped secure their California mansion, how silence and ghosting reportedly shattered a powerful relationship, and why this 30-day deadline could mark the beginning of the end for the Sussex brand. Stay with me until the end, because when the money stops moving, relationships stop pretending. To understand how things reached this point, we have to rewind to the spring of 2020, a moment of chaos, fear, and uncertainty. This was the height of Megxit. Harry and Meghan had abruptly left the royal system. Canada was no longer an option. Security was in question. Funding was unstable. And access to royal resources was shrinking fast. They landed in Los Angeles with global attention, but no permanent home, no protection plan, and no clear financial structure. That is when Tyler Perry stepped in, quietly. At the time, the story looked generous, even heroic. Perry offered them the use of his massive Beverly Hills estate, reportedly worth around $18 million. He provided privacy. He provided security. He provided safety when they claimed they had none. To the public, it looked like pure kindness, a Hollywood heavyweight, shielding a vulnerable couple from media chaos. But according to sources cited in the transcript, the help did not end there. As weeks turned into months, that assistance allegedly shifted from shelter to support, and from support to something much more serious. Money. This is where the Montecito story begins. When Harry and Meghan found the house they wanted, the Chateau of Riven Rock, the price tag was enormous. Roughly $14.65 million. Even for a prince, that number is not casual, especially one who had just lost guaranteed royal funding and was still waiting for major deals to fully materialize. Reports suggest they had some capital, but not enough liquid cash to close quickly. And in California real estate, speed is everything. This is where the alleged bridge loan enters the picture. Sources claim Tyler Perry wired millions to help close the gap, not through a bank, not through a traditional mortgage, but through an informal arrangement built on trust. No public contracts, no press announcements, no lawyers advertising paperwork. Just urgency, just friendship, just a handshake between people who believed they were aligned. To Perry, this was reportedly an investment in people he believed in, a bridge to independence, a temporary solution while media money arrived. To Harry, raised in a world where money appeared automatically, the psychology may have been very different. In royal life, financial rescue is routine. Patronage is expected. Support often comes without invoices. But Tyler Perry is not royalty. He is self-made, and self-made billionaires do not give away millions without expectation. To Perry, this was not charity. It was a bridge, one meant to be crossed, not lived on. At the time, everything looked safe. Netflix signed on. Spotify followed. The checks were supposed to come. The repayment would be easy. So the arrangement stayed quiet. Harry and Meghan moved into the house. They posed for magazine covers. The mansion became a symbol of freedom, independence, and reinvention. But one detail was never discussed publicly. The foundation of that house, according to these reports, was built with borrowed money. And in the world of business, borrowed money always comes with a clock. Eventually, the bill comes due. And as we are about to see, when the phone stopped being answered in Montecito, Tyler Perry made a decision that changed everything. So why now? Why would Tyler Perry, a man known for loyalty, discretion, and generosity, reportedly move toward legal action against people he once protected? The answer is not just money. It's silence. Because when you borrow millions of dollars based on trust, the most important payment is not cash. It's communication. According to insiders, the problem wasn't that repayment was slow. The problem was that the conversation stopped entirely. When deadlines approached and expected income failed to materialize, sources say Tyler Perry began reaching out. At first, politely, then more directly, then with growing concern. And then nothing. Calls went unanswered. Texts were left on read. Conversations were delayed, redirected, or quietly avoided. This is the point where friendship turns into finance. In informal lending, silence is not neutral. Silence is a message. And the message it sends is simple: this is no longer a priority. Sources describe a pattern that is deeply telling. You don't threaten legal action unless private reminders have been ignored for months, unless patience has been exhausted, unless every respectful option has already failed. According to the transcript, as financial pressure mounted behind the gates of Montecito, Harry and Meghan reportedly withdrew. Questions about repayment were brushed aside. Conversations about timelines were delayed. The help that once saved them was treated as if it belonged to the past, something already spent, emotionally and financially. This is where the relationship broke. To Tyler Perry, this was not just a financial issue. It was personal. He had stepped in when others didn't. He had offered his home, his security, his protection. And now, when accountability entered the conversation, he was met with distance. For a self-made billionaire who built everything from nothing, who understands exactly what money costs, that kind of dismissal is not a misunderstanding. It's disrespect. And this is where Harry's background becomes critical. Harry grew up in a system where financial rescue is automatic, where someone else handles the numbers, where support does not come with reminders. But Perry does not operate in that world. To him, silence does not mean grace. Silence means avoidance. According to insiders, Perry didn't react publicly. He didn't complain. He didn't leak. He did what powerful people do when they realize trust is being tested. He went quiet, and he watched. He watched as the Sussexes traveled, as awards were accepted, as designer wardrobes appeared, as appearances were made that suggested everything was fine. Meanwhile, his messages remained unanswered. That silence told him everything he needed to know. It told him repayment was not coming voluntarily. It told him the relationship had shifted, and it told him he was no longer seen as a friend, but as a fallback. This is the moment when the language changes. Once communication breaks down, the only language left is enforcement. That is how a godfather becomes a creditor. That is how a private arrangement becomes a legal one. Harry and Meghan may have believed their status would protect them, that silence would discourage pursuit, that no one would dare press them. They underestimated who they were dealing with. Because Tyler Perry is not intimidated by titles. He is not impressed by optics. And he does not forget when trust is broken. The moment he realized he was being ghosted, the situation stopped being emotional and started being strategic. And that is how a 30-day ultimatum is born. Harry and Meghan thought they could ignore a friend. They forgot they were ignoring a man who keeps records. And now that silence is about to be answered, not with a phone call, but with a filing. Up next, we're going to answer the question everyone is asking. If they signed massive media deals, why can't they just write the check and make this disappear? Because the truth is, the house they thought was freedom may be the very thing destroying them. So why can't this simply be handled quietly? If Harry and Meghan signed deals worth tens of millions, why not write a check, pay Tyler Perry, and make this problem disappear? Because contracts are not cash flow. An image does not pay bills. What Tyler Perry has reportedly been watching is not just silence, it's math. To the public, the Montecito mansion looks like a dream. Ocean air, gated privacy, rose gardens, a royal fairy tale rewritten in California sunshine. But houses don't care about narratives. They only care about numbers. And the numbers behind this property are brutal. The purchase price, roughly $14.65 million, was only the beginning. That is not the cost of ownership. That is the entry fee. Every year, the property generates enormous expenses. Six-figure property taxes that must be paid regardless of income. Insurance premiums that continue to rise. Maintenance costs that never stop. Then there is security. When Harry left the royal system, the taxpayer-funded protection disappeared. What once came automatically now comes as an invoice, and private security at that level costs millions annually. Add full-time staff, landscaping for 7 acres in a drought-prone state, repairs, upgrades, image maintenance to sustain the appearance of wealth. And then there is the location itself. Real estate insiders have long described Riven Rock as beautiful and dangerous. The area is known for flooding risks, mudslides, and geological instability. Insurance in this zone is notoriously expensive, and coverage is becoming harder to secure. There have also been persistent whispers in the local community about aging infrastructure issues, plumbing problems, drainage concerns, maintenance demands that never end. This is not a passive asset. It is a machine that consumes cash every single day. Harry and Meghan didn't buy freedom. They bought a liability. And this is where the story becomes uncomfortable. All of this overhead would be manageable if the money kept flowing. But it didn't. The Spotify deal collapsed loudly. Not quietly. Not gracefully. It wasn't just the loss of revenue. It was reputational damage. When a top executive publicly labels you a grifter, doors don't close slowly. They slam. Netflix held on longer, but by 2025, viewership numbers told a clear story. Projects struggled to gain traction. Titles failed to break into meaningful rankings. Attention came. Longevity didn't. And without consistent income, the Montecito house stopped being a home and started being a trap. According to multiple reports, Meghan has allegedly explored selling the property quietly through pocket listings, off-market conversations, private inquiries. Not because they want to move, but because they need liquidity. The problem is, the market is cooling. And this house has a reputation. Potential buyers know the costs. They know the risks. And they know desperation when they see it. No buyers. No exit. No easy solution. This is the reality Tyler Perry sees. He sees a couple who are house poor at a royal scale. He sees expenses outpacing income. He sees a safety net that no longer exists. There is no duchy money coming. No royal bailout. No quiet rescue from King Charles. And that is why the timing matters. From Perry's perspective, waiting is dangerous. If he delays, there may be nothing left to collect. The mansion that symbolized independence now looks like collateral or evidence. The dream house has become a financial prison. And as we're about to see, this isn't just about money anymore. Because the man now demanding repayment isn't a distant investor. He's family. This story would already be devastating if it were only about money. But it isn't, because Tyler Perry is not a bank. He is not a hedge fund. He is not a faceless lender. He is the godfather of their child. Harry and Meghan personally asked Tyler Perry to take on that role, a position that carries deep meaning. In the Christian tradition, a godfather is a spiritual guardian, a lifelong protector, someone trusted not just with finances, but with family. When Perry accepted, he wasn't signing up for photo ops or polite distance. He was stepping into their inner circle. He had already given them his home, his security, his protection. He stood between them and the chaos when they said they had no one else. So for this man, this guardian, to reach the point of threatening legal action tells us something critical. It tells us that whatever happened behind closed doors was severe. Because you do not sue the parents of your godchild unless the relationship is already broken beyond repair. This is not revenge. This is disillusionment. Sources suggest Perry came to a painful realization. He was not chosen because of a deep spiritual bond. He was chosen because he was useful. A billionaire with resources. A bridge to Hollywood. A safety net at the exact moment they needed one. And once that usefulness ended, so did the communication. This is where the fallout spreads. Tyler Perry is not just wealthy, he is respected. He owns studios. He employs thousands. He has built his empire from nothing. When someone like him signals that he has been burned, the message travels fast. Hollywood is not sentimental. It is observant. If Tyler Perry cannot trust them, who will? Do you think other powerful friends are lining up to help? Do you think private jets, vacation homes, or financial favors are still on the table? Of course not. Perry was the ultimate character witness. By allegedly ghosting him, the Sussexes didn't just lose a loan. They lost credibility. Other potential lenders are watching. Other allies are paying attention. Because no one wants to be the last person waiting quietly while everyone else gets ignored. This is how reputational collapse begins, not with a scandal, but with a pattern. And in a town like Montecito, where influence matters more than titles, being at odds with your child's godfather is not just awkward. It's radioactive. The compassion-based branding, the foundation slogans, the public image of gratitude and values. None of it survives this. Because this situation sends a single, brutal message. When it mattered most, loyalty went one way. And now, the only person left speaking is the one with the leverage. Which brings us to the final and most dangerous phase of the story. Because if Tyler Perry takes this to court, the damage won't stop at repayment. It will explode through a process Harry and Meghan cannot control. Discovery. To most people, a lawsuit is a financial inconvenience. To Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, it is an existential threat. Because court is not about image. Court is not about feelings. Court is about facts. And the weapon that makes this so dangerous is something called discovery. If Tyler Perry files that lawsuit, his legal team gains the right to demand everything. Bank records, wire transfers, emails, text messages, financial disclosures, asset statements. There is no editing, no PR filter, no selective storytelling. Discovery does not care about your truth. It only cares about the truth. This is the nightmare scenario. For years, the Sussexes have controlled their narrative through friendly interviews and curated appearances. Questions were managed. Stories were shaped. A courtroom offers no such luxury. If one private loan is exposed, others may surface. Forensic accountants follow patterns. They trace money. They identify dependencies. And this threatens the core myth of their American life, the story of financial independence. If the records show a lifestyle funded by bridge loans, favors, and quiet rescues, the brand collapses. The entrepreneur narrative evaporates. Critics aren't proven cruel. They're proven correct. And the risk doesn't stop there. When personal finances wobble, institutions attract attention. Questions arise about foundations, expenses, blurred lines between charity and lifestyle. Auditors do not care about intentions. They care about numbers. And once scrutiny begins, accounts freeze. Projects stall. Options vanish. That explains the silence. Notice what has not happened. There has been no firm denial. No documentation released. No clear statement shutting this down. In financial disputes, silence is not strength. It is strategy. Sources suggest frantic reviews are underway, assets assessed, valuables evaluated, options explored. Jewelry, inheritances, anything liquid enough to stop this before it reaches a judge. Because once court begins, the Montecito house stops being a home. It becomes evidence. Tyler Perry now holds something more powerful than money. He holds leverage, and he knows the Sussexes would pay almost anything to avoid discovery. But if they can't, then the American legal system will do what the press never could. It will expose everything. Harry once said he left the royal family to protect his privacy. Now he faces a process that could reveal more in weeks than tabloids did in decades. As we close the file on the Montecito saga, the lesson is painfully simple. Freedom cannot be financed. Tyler Perry didn't destroy a dream. He revealed its cost. Harry and Meghan traded the constraints of monarchy for the unforgiving math of American independence. They left one system only to enter another, one that does not offer grace when bills come due. The house was meant to symbolize liberation. Instead, it stands as a receipt, a monument to borrowed freedom. And borrowed things always come with terms. Now, I turn it over to you, the jury of public opinion. If you were advising Prince Harry today, what would you tell him to do? Should he swallow his pride and pay up? Or should he sell the house and walk away? Type pay up if you believe the debt must be cleared immediately. Type sell IT if you think the Montecito dream is over. If you appreciate us exposing the financial reality behind the Hollywood fairy tale, hit like, subscribe to World of Royals, and stay with us, because this story isn't over. It's just done pretending.